My, look at those sexy curves. But YouTube, today's video is not about her. Today's video is about my 4-post lift. And today's video is 5 of 6. The 10 things I like about the lift and the 2 things that I don't. So let's get started with number 1 right now. The 10 things I like about my BendPak 4-post lift. Okay, so number 1 on my list was the wider ramps. The ramps adjust from about 38 inches to about 44 with the utility, but the actual open space is about 41 inches that I measured. And the engine on the car is about 35, 36 inches wide. You do have to take the exhaust pipe off and the muffler off because it's like 46 inches, so you have to take that off. But the engine itself will fit, especially if you take off the accumulator for the slave cylinder on the clutch. You take that off, you take off the muffler, and the motor is supposed to fit through that space. So that's why I really liked this particular lift from BendPak, because the runways open up wide enough for me to drop my engine and change my clutch. Number 2. The second thing that I like about my BendPak 4-post lift is the adjustability of the ladders. If you look all the way at the bottom, there is a slot where the bolt holds the bottom of the ladder. That slot is 3 inches long. That allows you to fine tune where all the locks engage, and it also allows you to tweak how high the car really goes in relation to the ceiling when you're in a pinch for space like I was. And you can actually adjust up to 3 inches of additional wiggle room for where the last lock engages. So that was a really big point for me, so that I could actually maximize every inch of space that I have available in my garage, which was only 113 inches. Now, number 2 actually ties into another one of the points that I like, and I'll tell you that when it comes up, because the distance between the locking locations on the ladder is another one. Number 3. My third point about the lift that I really like is the fact that it came in a variety of footprint sizes in terms of how high it goes up to the ceiling, and how wide it is and how long it is. There is a version of this HD9 that is longer, that goes deeper into the garage. There's also a version that's extra tall, that goes taller up. And that would be too big for my garage in terms of length, and it would be too big for my garage in terms of height. So having that flexibility and the available smaller sizes that would still accommodate the vehicle was a big plus for me. So that's number 3, the adjustability and portability of the overall size of the lift. Number 4. The fourth area that I really like about the lift is it has a double locking mechanism. You can't really see it because it's down off in the back, but the way it works is this pulley right here is being held tight by this cable. And as long as this cable is tight on this little pulley right here, it disengages one of the safety locks. If this cable were to fail, or the cylinder were to fail that's holding this cable, slack would come onto this pulley, and it would allow it to engage a secondary safety lock system. The primary safety lock system is actuated manually by this valve here, which will be a whole other issue coming up pretty soon. And it opens and closes these pneumatic solenoids that disengage the lock when you press in this valve. Okay? And I like that double safety. You always want to lower it onto your safety locks, but you also have, they're side by side, they're like 2 locks. One is actuated by this cable, and one is actuated by this pneumatic solenoid. So I really like that feature. Number 5. Number 5 is the fact that the system is pneumatic for the safety locks. I didn't think I'd like it at first. I was leaning towards the cables. I didn't really like the idea of the pneumatics. But now that I've tried it, thought about it for a while, and I've used it for a while, and I really like it. It's very convenient, it works very well, and that's my number 5. Number 6. Number 6 is the distance between the ladder locations. The distance from one ladder location, safety lock, to the next ladder location, safety lock, is 4 inches. In looking at many others, it looks like it was a lot more, like 5 or even 6 inches in between each graduation. And that was important for me, again, because I had limited space and I wanted to be able to get to the next lock as quickly as possible. So this being only 4 inches from one level to the next was a big plus for me. Number 7. Number 7. 7, of course, is the perfect number in many instances. And in this case, number 7 is the fact that my BendPak HD9 4-post lift is made right here in the USA. That's right. BendPak is an American-made, American manufactured company, and that was a plus for me. So it wasn't a huge determining factor, as obviously I like foreign-made things such as my Porsche, but the fact that it was made in America was also good, and I like supporting American-made products. Number 8. My number 8 is something that some might seem is superfluous, but it was kind of a little bit important to me, and I was very happily surprised when I found out that it was the case. Number 8 is the color. I love gray. I love silver, obviously. And the previous versions that I saw were actually blue, which was fine, but not ideal. And the fact that they changed the color to gray was just one more plus for me. Number 9. Number 9 is the fact that the lift came in a 110 or 120 voltage for the little pump. So you could use your existing circuitry in existing wiring. Now, putting in a 220 circuit would have been pretty easy, but then I couldn't use it for other things. I couldn't plug like a vacuum cleaner into this and use it like I've done, or a charger for my trickle charger. So having a 110 version was a huge plus for me. Number 10, coming right up. All right, so number 10, some might think it's a little superfluous again, but it's a simple fact that the lift came with metal ramps and metal wheel chucks, as you can see in the back. Now, I did go ahead and purchase my own rubber wheel chucks in addition, because I wanted those, but it was nice to have ramps that actually work with the vehicles and wheel chucks that I use in the back. And those are my 10 pluses. So here we go. Now I get to talk about the 2 things that I don't like. And even though I don't like them, they're not deal killers. So here they go, number 1 and number 2. So number 1 of the thing that I don't like is kind of a nice to have, not necessarily a need to have, but it's this little grease fitting right here. Okay? That little grease fitting did not come with the lift, and it used to. So they doubled the price, and they removed one of the maintenance things as the grease fittings. So the grease fittings on my lift, I installed myself. And that's why I have grease fittings on each of my pins that go into my sheaves. Okay? So for me, that really sucked. I thought that was kind of not cool. And I noticed one of my buddies' lifts, it had grease fittings, and then when mine came, it didn't have them. So I thought that was kind of a low blow. And I know that they have nice brass bushings in the sheaves, and I know that there's ways to squirt lithium in the corners and try to get a little bit in there, but it's not as good as greasing your sheaves and your pins with grease using a grease fitting. So I took mine apart and install grease fittings. And I think that was kind of a low blow for them to double the price and then remove. And I know it adds to the bottom line, they make more money and all that, but I'm just speaking out, I don't like it. So for me, it wasn't a deal killer, but it really, really, really sucked. That's number one. Number two is even worse. All right, guys, number two, the thing that I like least about my lift is this cheap valve that came with it. This cheap valve, okay? I'm gonna tell you right now, mine didn't work at all, okay? It didn't work at all. But there's a note in the instructions that tells you, don't use these holes when you mount it, use these holes. Because if you use these holes, it'll squeeze it too much and it won't function. This is like a $5 valve, okay? When you get it, if you buy this lift and it still has this valve, the first thing you need to do is take this valve and throw it in the trash. It's garbage, okay? This valve, I put on myself. This is a $120 valve. You don't necessarily need to get this valve, okay? But you need to get something better than this. And I did a lot of research, and the best dollar for dollar valve that I could find is available at Zorro, okay? And this is the valve. It's similar to mine, but it costs like 50 bucks. Okay, it's a lot cheaper. And here is the part number for this valve. Is it upside down? No, it's not upside down. Here's the part number for this valve on Zorro. Okay, if you want to get, in my opinion, dollar for dollar, about the best valve you can get that's still a two-way, three-position valve. Okay, you need to be able to push the valve. Okay, and when you release it, have it release. This one will not release. So the safety lock stayed engaged. Or it wouldn't, it's unbelievable. This thing is the worst aspect, the worst feature of this 4-post lift. It's a disgrace to BendPak. It's garbage. All right? That's my opinion. And I'm not going to put the weight that's behind my opinion, but I think there's a lot of weight behind my opinion. This is garbage. Okay, and it's just cheap and should not be on a lift. Okay, so anyway, that's my opinion. Those are my 10 things I like. The 2 things I hate, okay, the fact that they took the grease fittings off, and the fact that they include a valve that is so cheap it shouldn't even be on on anything. This is garbage. All right, thanks for watching. Sorry for ranting. Have a nice day.